Join us for lively discussion about the A-State community. Each week, we'll meet with a variety of faculty, staff, and students to discuss all things Arkansas State University. Live from the ASU-TV studios in the School of Media and Journalism, this is A-State Connections.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to A-State Connections on ASU-TV. I'm Johnathan Reaves, Academic Advisor at Arkansas State University. Today, we're talking to the Dr. Joel Gambill Distinguished Speaker, Dawnetta Van Dunk. Dawnetta is a 1995 graduate of Arkansas State and has an MBA at the University of Illinois. She's also working on her doctorate in education at Baylor University. Also, Associate Professor of Multimedia Journalism Sandra Combs is joining me today. And we appreciate you both for being here. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So, Dawnetta, tell me a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind, please, and how you came to Arkansas State.
First, thank you all for having me here. I'm so appreciative to Dr. Gambill for having this speaker series, and so thankful to Professor Combs for reaching out to me and asking if I'd be interested in coming. I am an Arkansas native. I'm from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I finished high school at Pine Bluff High School and was a basketball player from 7th grade through high school, and I was fortunate to be connected to Arkansas State. My high school coach, his brother was actually Coach Mike Dean. He was an assistant coach here. And, while I went to another university my freshman year, I reached out to the coach here at the time, who was Coach Kay Winters, and she was happy to have me come on over. So I packed up my things from that other university and got myself to Jonesboro. So I was happy to be coming to A-State.
Fantastic. And so with that, of course, you went into journalism, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But I want to ask you, one thing we didn't put up there is what you're currently doing now. What is your current position?
Currently, I'm a program manager with the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs in their Office of Information Technology. Okay.
Journalism, why did you get involved in it? What was one of the things that really interested you in journalism?
Well, I always knew I had a little bit more of a capability or, skills on the writing side and a liberal side and more creative side. I was not, someone who liked the quantitative skills. I didn't like them at all. And so I ran to journalism. I ran to writing. And so when I started college, I really did start looking at, well, what are the degrees that could fit someone with my skill set? And when I got to A-State, I did seek it out and learned about it and tried to figure out how I was going to, go from taking all just the general courses you usually take when you're just starting out.
Sure.
And then, I started making my way into the journalism courses and advertising courses. So.
Fantastic. Sandra Combs is joining us here as well, and I know we're going to talk a lot about your work with the Herald and the things that you did, Dawnetta, but Sandra, I want to ask you about your position at Arkansas State and how you are incorporating students and the journalistic ethics and all that into what students are doing currently today.
Okay. I'm an associate professor in the accredited Multimedia Journalism program here. I've been at A-State since August 2008, but as far as being advisor for the award-winning Herald newspaper, student weekly newspaper, I encourage students from all across campus to be a part of it because we have so many opportunities for them to hone their writing skills, their interviewing skills, and one of the things that we harp on here is creative thinking and also being able to interface with people one-on-one. Some of our students are kind of shy, but we try to get around that.
Sure.
I believe that writing is a part of every career, whether it is doctor's prescription or doctor's analysis, if it's not written clearly, you can get all confused and mixed up medicine. Or whether it's an engineer or whatever. Writing is important, and that's one of the things we stress, writing, whether it's for online, print, magazine, TV, scripts, radio.
Right. And you're talking also, it helps with the critical thinking aspects of those as well, because you have to have that. I wanted to ask Dawnetta about journalism, because ultimately in the job that you're doing, those skills that you learned, how are you able to take those skills that you learned and be able to apply them in the job that you're doing right now?
Oh, thank you so much for that question, and Professor Combs really hit on it. When you think about create a message or creating trying to craft a point of view so that your audience understands, all of that came from my, having learned how to build a message right here at A-State. It is so critical in everything that I do right today. While I am not in the communications department at work, I work in information technology, but what I do basically is I'm trying to ensure that our stakeholders understand exactly what it is we need for the solution that we're proposing. So it's crafting a message. It is critical thinking. It is, taking those basics from, I take them from journalism, the who, what, where, why, and how. I take, when. I take that basic formula. And even though I've gone through graduate school and I'm going through another program now, my doctorate program, and there have been many, many other models and strategic frameworks, but I can still draw a straight line from the 5 W's and H in journalism, and I can map it to program management frameworks or other strategic analysis frameworks. It's really about, and Professor Combs said this earlier, it's about critical thinking. So if you can really have the depth of understanding of some foundational things, and then you can understand how to broaden it and how to apply those things to other areas. Yeah.
Right, and I know that this makes you very happy, Sam, to be able to hear that, because that's exactly what you're trying to tell students about all the time, is that this is so applicable, not just here, but to whatever it is that people are doing.
Correct, because it's not just about print journalism, as she has said. She's used it in all throughout her career, after she got her degree here at Arkansas State and moved on. In every aspect, she's used the 5 W's and the how.
Sure. I remember hearing a former department chair saying that he actually had a conversation with someone who went through the program who's now working for the state police, and said that, asked him, said, well, you're not working in radio or television or anything like that. Do you feel like that, that your degree was something that still helps you? And he said, oh, absolutely. Because we have to write narratives, on things that happen. And so he takes those journalistic skills and he's able to apply them whenever he's writing those narratives, because instead of, I think one of the things is that journalism allows you, and writing that way allows you don't have a whole lot of time for fluff stuff. You've got to get right to the point, on all that. So, and I know that you see that a lot in your job too.
Absolutely.
With crafting messages.
Absolutely. You really have to get to the point. I was sharing with some students yesterday, because my career has taken me from advertising to working with Department of Defense and working with these high-level military officers, to now where I'm working with other senior officers, and they're veterans, and some of them are still active, might be in reserve. But the thing is, you have to get to the point,
Sure.
So how do you get to the point, but yet still have enough information in there that allows them to make a decision? And that's the idea. We want you to have the critical information so that you can make a decision.
Sam, when you're writing a story, how I know it's critical to get to that point, but how are you able to do something like that? I know that it's situational, story to story, and all that. But when you're trying to really drive home and get to points like for the Herald, like you've got a copy of the Herald with you right now and all that from this week. How do you help students be able to drive and really kind of hit home on certain points, with the stories that they're working on?
I encourage students to be able to talk to one another, to ask questions, and not be afraid to ask questions that may be uncomfortable or that they think is none of our business. The thing about it is when you're trying to tell someone's story, you need to know all about them. For instance, earlier today I asked Dawnetta what was her middle name. I'd seen the M, but I hadn't got, there's no harm in that. Asking people how old they are. Some people are uncomfortable with that.
Sure.
The thing is we have to get the full story, we have to ask the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, the how. And the other thing that we add is, and I care about this because, so who cares? And to get that information, you've got to be able to talk to people and not be afraid to ask questions.
And how we can relate to audiences. Why should the audience care about this?
Exactly.
That's really what kind of gets that. So I'm going to ask this question since you set it up nicely. What does the M stand for in that?
It stands for Michelle.
Michelle.
As in Michelle Obama.
Right.
Yeah, so it, my last name is Van Dunk. It's 2 words. So a lot of times people think Van is my middle name, so I make sure and use the M in there so they know that Van is part of my last name. That's not my middle name.
Right. So very good. But that's part of your story.
Yes,
and all
it
that.
is. Yes.
His names are so important. So, but one of the things that I was going to ask is there are a lot of different positions, Sam, that you want to put students in for the Herald. And I know that you had worked in the Herald. And we're going to talk about the positions in a second. But Dawnetta, I was going to ask you, your experience working there at the Herald, can you describe what that was like and what you gained from that?
Truly it was a huge confidence builder. It gave me my own sense of agency. Coming here as a student athlete and having my experience as a student athlete, and then deciding to immerse myself into the Herald, I truly felt like, I was of value on the Herald. When I walked into the newsroom, or if I was, working with my classmates, I felt like, that I really had something to offer. So for me, when I finished school and was ready to go out into the world, I was not afraid of anything. I felt like I could sit and talk with anyone, and and there would be a connection that I could connect. So for me, I would say confidence, great bit of self-efficacy, confidence, agency, and really learned how to connect with people.
And you have lifelong friends. You still, from 1995, that you still connect with.
It's so meaningful. I still have some of the same friends who I met on the Herald,
Yeah, definitely. It's part of a community for sure. We're going to continue with this conversation coming up as we're talking with Dr. Joel Gambill, distinguished speaker Dawnetta Van Dunk, and Associate Professor of Multimedia Journalism Sandra Combs also joining us here today. We'll continue with this conversation right after this.
I think one of the things I learned at Arkansas State was life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it, and that's just something that I live by.
A-State is home, and they're going to treat you like you're a part of the family.
When you say experience counts, it's experience that counts for a lifetime.
Boxes, I cannot fit in the boxes. Stop it, quitting was never an option. Exhausted, this passion is never exhausted. And you cannot stop it, nah, you cannot stop it. Quitting was never an option. And you cannot stop it, nah, you cannot stop it.
Live from the ASU-TV studios in the School of Media and Journalism, this is A-State Connections.
Welcome back to A-State Connections on ASU-TV. I'm Johnathan Reaves. As today we're continuing our conversation with the Dr. Joel Gambill Distinguished Speaker, Dawnetta Van Dunk, and Associate Professor of Multimedia Journalism, Sandra Combs, also here with me today. So thank you both for joining us here for the second round of questions. So one of the things we were kind of talking about before we went to break is the importance of asking questions and being able to talk to people and all that. Since I was at the NPR affiliate KASU here on campus for years, we would have a show, the Diane Reaves show, and one of the things was kind of she would always say, "Stay curious." Yeah. I think there is something about that. You have to do that in journalism, is to stay curious. Yes. So tell us about how we continue with that curiosity. And how we can keep that going, and especially for students who are kind of here listening and all that. How do we stay curious? How do we keep abreast with things that are going on?
I think our students, number one, have an inbox of curiosity with them in their phones or whatever they use. Number one, they're always getting alerts. They're always getting texts and information from friends and relatives or whatever. So that in itself shows that they have a certain amount of curiosity, because they're always in their phones.
Sure.
But the thing about it is that they know that they're here for an education, and as a part of that education, they're curious about what they can do with the classes that they take, or the friends they meet, or the activities, organizations that they're a part of. I know students who join sororities and fraternities because of the philanthropy. So they're curious about what is out there for them, besides having to read a chapter on U.S. history from 1899.
Sure. That curiosity continues, and I know one of the things that you've been working on, Dawnetta, as part of your doctorate program, and you actually have a nonprofit on this, is making sure that STEM, education in that is available, and that Black girls specifically, middle education going into, that they know about these opportunities. Why is this so important?
So, as I mentioned earlier, when I was coming up as a middle schooler, math was something I was just purely afraid of, and I struggled through my algebra courses. And I actually was afraid of numbers up to adulthood. But I started reading a little bit more, broadening myself. I'd moved to the East Coast, and you start looking around and looking at everyone who's moving faster. So I says, I really, have to do more. And so, one thing that I knew that I needed to do was get over my fear of numbers. So I went and applied for business school, which is all quantitative, and thankfully, I was accepted to University of Illinois. So I went through that journey, and then as I've gone through my career, which has been primarily in technology organizations, working from more of a management and strategic point of view, but a position, but I've always engaged engineers and computer scientists. And so as I think back, so what can I do to help increase the number of Black women working in science, technology, or engineering, or math? What can I do, And so when I think about my own lived experience, I just, what? Why don't I look at those middle school Black girls? Why don't I try to understand, some of those beginnings of where, young people really start to think about, where their capabilities are. So as I started doing my research and try to understand where, kind of where those gaps were, I learned that 8th grade is really, a pivotal point in a young person's education career, or education in secondary school. So either they run from math, or they'll hone their skills in it at that point because all the testing and everything. So I really wanted to be a part of the solution. So I started STEM Innovation Spark Her, or STEM is Her, and I worked to really try to give these young girls a real world view. So I'll engage them and match them with women leaders who are working in STEM. And we have day-long conferences. The pandemic did mess up a lot of things, but we are still in operation and looking for different ways to evolve as an enrichment program, as an opportunity for girls to really kind of build their mathematics and STEM identity, and really try to imbue some things that help them understand or develop their own self-efficacy, to really try to motivate them. The idea is, we want to ensure that if they're interested, if they have the motivation to go on to a STEM career, that they are eligible for those quantitative courses when they get to college. Right. Because you have to get it by the time you're 8th grade, and that's, your achievement level 8th grade is going to dictate what you take in those higher grades in 9, 10, 11th, and 12th grade. Right. And then those scores are going to dictate what you're able to take once you get to college. So.
In your research, have there been some factors that have led to maybe some challenges that have been kind of there, that maybe either girls don't know that these opportunities are available, or if you know what I'm saying, and how have you been able to try and address some of those factors or challenges?
Well, so those are great questions, Johnathan, and that is a part of my research now. So part of my research questions are, what role do out-of-school time programs play in the mathematics achievement of 8th grade Black girls? Out of school time, this includes your summer camps, math summer camps, STEM camps, after school programs in general. But the interest here is STEM specific, math specific programs. And the idea is that there are opportunities for the girls to bring in their own funds of knowledge, essentially cultural nuances that they've been able to develop in their own communities and home, and their own ways of doing and being, and this is what I've learned in the literature. So that these after-school programs, out-of-school time programs, it allows them to bring their whole selves. And so it's not trying to do something so different from formal in-class, but leveraging the lessons, the formal in-class, but also broadening and allowing more culturally affirming practices in the out-of-school time programs.
See, Sam, this is a fantastic story right there to kind of talk about that. Those are the kinds of stories I know that you're looking for your students to be able to do.
Exactly. And the numbers thing, the scaring away from numbers, I used to joke that I was a words person, I wasn't a numbers person. Mm-hmm. But we have to do a little bit of math in life every day.
That's right.
And therefore I tell my students, you go to the grocery store and you see something 10% off, you do it in your head,
Mm-hmm.
So it's important. It's important.
Very important.
Numbers and words are important.
And when they come together, like with data journalism, and when they come together, and that is some of the most powerful journalism that's there. When you can juxtapose numbers, talk about figures and all of that, and then you can talk about economic trends. You can talk about all sorts of things. Data journalism is so important today.
Oh, that's
like
wonderful.
Once a month, you're going to hear about the jobs report on national news. You're going to hear about unemployment rates, and so those numbers are important. You have to be able to understand them.
What does it mean to you to be able to have Dawnetta come, Sam, and talk to your students and to be here with the message that she's giving to students?
Well, we have a plaque up on the second floor with a graphic of Dr. Joel Gambill and the list of alumni who've come to speak to our students. Number one, it shows them that journalism equips you for more than writing for a newspaper. We want our students to know that there are opportunities out there. Even many of our students go to law school or grad school or whatever, but they wind up having the foundation, as she said, the 5 W's and the H, and are able to compete in other fields. one of the basic things of journalism is research. Research. Dr. Gambill, who the speaker series is named after and endowed for in the name of, was a great researcher. He could do data journalism, and he taught many classes. Even his last few years, he taught law and ethics. He taught, which is important in all fields, law and ethics. It's important that people know that without journalism, without the reporting of what is going on, especially on the local level, because the national level is going to be taken care of by ABC, CNN, Fox News, or whatever. But on the local level, when we report what's going on in the city, the people in Jonesboro want to know how much the mayor is spending for sidewalks and whatever. So that's all important.
Yeah. Stay curious.
Awesome.
Stay curious.
Stay curious.
And lifelong learning
Absolutely.
is what it's all about.
Yes,
So
truly.
before we let you run, thank you so much, Dawnetta, for being here. Anything else you would like to add, please?
Only that I'm so proud of Arkansas State. I'm so thankful to Dr. Gambill. And I wanted to mention, he's retired now, but Dean Russell Shane, he was my dean when I was here. I've stayed in touch with Dean Shane the whole time that I've been, that I've graduated and gone on. And then Professor Combs mentioned one of my other friends, Shonda Washington. She's done an amazing thing with her career over the years. So, it's just a lifelong friends, the foundational learning that I've been able to I've had the opportunity to have and take it with me through life. So I'm very appreciative of being an alum of Arkansas State.
About 2 minutes left. Sam, anything else you'd like to add, please?
Just that the Herald is open for everybody. You don't have to major in the accredited multimedia journalism. And we have people who benefit from having a variety of different people working with. Welcome you.
Absolutely. It's open to everyone, and everyone is welcome.
Everyone is
Absolutely. Sounds good, because of the different viewpoints and all that make for a much better publication.
Absolutely.
And we also got to have a dad joke section in there. I'll get you with that. That stuff. We got to have that too.
So good.
That'll do it for this edition of
is
A-State
so good.
Connections. I want to thank my guests, Dawnetta Van Dunk and Sandra Combs. Also want to thank creative media production instructor Dustin Sullivan and his amazing students who are always behind the scenes running the show. Also, thanks to Jacob Keene and Timmy Arquette for their help on the show today. We'll return next week for another edition of A-State Connections on ASU-TV. Thanks for joining us, and so long, everyone.
So long.